This video is about introductions and conclusions. It will break down two pieces of the introduction and it will talk about some of the rules. And it will also talk about titles and it will talk about conclusions. To argue effectively, it's important to make sure that your audience understands the situation or the problem that you will be talking about. And to do that, you need to build your audience's background knowledge. And you need to describe the situation or the problem so that everyone starts on the same page before you begin your argument. If you take a look at the two essays you were given in class, I think they're both about gap years and paying for college. One's green and one's blue. If you take a look at the sample essays, you're going to see that the background knowledge comes right in the middle of the introduction in one of the essays and at the beginning of the other essay. In essay 1, the background information starts with the sentence that says college costs are rising every year, and it continues on and goes all the way until the word career. In essay 1, it is one sentence long, and in your essay, you might have a pretty short background information, especially if it's something that your audience is pretty familiar with. In essay number 2, the author starts almost right away talking about the background and takes a few more sentences to build up to describing what the issue is that they'll be talking about. Essay 2 starts with the path to a successful career and is done building up the background information when they get to the word class. You're going to notice that the background information finishes and wraps up right before the opinion gets interjected. So looking at the two essays side by side, you can see that both essays have background information, even though they don't have the same placement and the same length. Even if you think your audience knows everything there is to know about the topic, you should still summarize the situation so that they know that you understand what's going on. It may seem a little awkward to do that, but one way you can begin it is by starting with something like, as you know, and then the audience thinks, aha, now we both know. So what should you do now? You should take a look at the draft of your essay and consider what background information needs to be added to help your audience fully understand the problem or the situation you're writing about. Read it through as if you know nothing about the situation. And then ask, what do you need to summarize about the who, the what, the when, where, why, how, in order to point the audience in the right direction? Add this information in the beginning of your essay. Take a look at your essay planner, and there is a spot for you to do that adding. One way that you can think about adding is describing the history of the topic, or describing what the two schools of thought are about the topic, or how we've gotten to this point in considering the topic. Next, let's talk about a title for your essay. Your title has 3 important jobs. It should make your audience want to read your essay. It should communicate the topic of your essay, and it should hint as to what your point of view on the topic will be. If you think about a title like Horrible Behavior, you might say that that's an interesting title and it may entice the audience to read it, but it doesn't give you any information about what exactly the paper will be about or your opinion about that topic. If you think then instead about a title called School is Important, now you know what the topic is going to be and the point of view, but it's not a terribly creative title and it wouldn't necessarily do the job of grabbing the reader's attention and making them want to read it. So the most effective titles do all 3 jobs. They're creative enough to be interesting, but they also explain the topic or point the audience to the topic and give a hint as to what your point of view will be. There is a handout that you will have access to, and it breaks down 2 different types of titles, 1-part titles and 2-part titles. And you'll want to access this handout to get some good ideas on what you could possibly do as a title. It also has some good information about the grammar component of your title, including what you should capitalize. All right, let's talk about your hook. Your hook is sometimes called the attention getter or the grabber, and the hook comes in the very first few sentences of the essay. Should be the very first thing that your audience reads after they read the title, and it's the part where you're grabbing your reader's attention. That's why it's sometimes called the grabber. It comes before you build background knowledge or before you present your thesis. If you take a look at the handout that is available to you, you will see several different types of hooks. And you should take a look at those and try to experiment some with your topic and see if you can try out several of the hooks before you land on one that you think is the most effective for your topic. Now let's talk about conclusions. The last paragraph of your essay is called your conclusion, and it has to do several things. It is how you close your essay, and in this case, your argument. And so it should give a restatement of your thesis and a brief summary of your main points. You should take care to word these differently from how you did in the introduction. So try to do some renaming of the thesis here. You should also, or you can also, make a connection back to the hook. That's called an echo. It's not required to do that, but it satisfies the audience, and it makes the whole essay feel more polished and artful. And then you should try to end with a powerful, memorable closing thought. There is a handout for you, and it has 5 different ways that you could possibly close your essay. You want to take a look at that and try a few different, try experimenting until you find one that has that feel that it's the good one, it's the right one. So now what? Now you get to draft a title, an introduction, and a conclusion. You will find on Google Classroom a place for you to do this. It's separate from the document where you did your first body paragraph. So it's specifically for the title, the introduction, and the conclusion. And I would highly recommend that you don't go with your first choice, with the first bit of inspiration that you get for any of these 3. I would recommend that you try out a few different kinds and mold them and substitute words in for different words and just keep working with it until you get one that you think does the best job of grabbing your reader's attention, introducing your topic, and leaving the reader with something memorable.